At the start of 2018, my grandma was given a prognosis of 6 months to live. I thought she could celebrate Hari Raya with me, but she passed away in the middle of Ramadan. For the last 4 months, I got closer to her, and I learned a lot more about her. I was also able to take care of her during her last moments, like how she took care of me ever since I was a baby. These last few precious moments would not have been possible without the intervention of palliative care. It has helped me, my family, and my grandma through those very tough 4 months. Palliative care made us realize that while there were disputes, there was also laughter, but most importantly, there was love.
Palliative care is a program for patients with life-limiting illnesses. Jeannie Wainwright is one of the nurses in the palliative ward in St. Luke's Hospital. Jeannie also shares that the atmosphere in the palliative ward often gets very intense and at times can even unhinge the most seasoned nurses.
So there was one day when we had, unfortunately, 3 patients pass away in a very close time frame within the same shift. And accumulatively, when you're a caregiver as a nurse or even the OTPT, it's a lot of caregiver stress. It's a lot of grief that we also go through. So at that time, Chaplaincy Seok Ing came. She's such a lovely lady, and we're so fortunate to have her here at St. Luke's. She came and she said, "Come, let's pray." And it was just like on the spot. It was very spontaneous. All the nurses just got around in a circle in like a bit of a huddle, and we all just prayed together.
The relationship between a patient and a caregiver in the palliative ward is unique. It is also amplified, and it often gets very personal.
So I've had this uncle, he is not communicative, so this patient couldn't speak verbally, but he's still awake. So every time when I see him, he didn't want to do much, but he wants us to massage his legs. Through that, we have these silent conversations. I think three or 4 days before he passed, he knew, so he was already quite weak, but he was still able to gesture to me. So I was massaging him, and then when I was almost done, I put my hand very near to him, and then he looked in my eyes and he held the gaze for quite some time. He tapped my shoulder and he showed a thumbs up.
Palliative care is more than just easing the pain of the patients. It is also about the emotional and mental side of the patient. During this very tough and emotional time, the families of the patients needs support as well. Ma Seok Ing is a chaplain in the palliative ward.
Actually, I encourage them to firstly say, "Thank you. Thank you for being my mother. Thank you for being my mom who is willing to take care of me when I was young." And the second one is, it's time to tell the person, "Please forgive me." Besides asking for forgiveness, I think it is good to let the person know that I have forgiven you, because I think I want the person to return back to God joyfully, cheerfully, without any guilt. It is very important to tell our loved ones that I love you. The word "I love you" is very important. It's simple, but it's very meaningful. And the last one, which I think is equally important, is we need to tell our loved ones and assure them, don't worry about me. I will take very good care of myself.
From her own experience, Seok Ing learned a few things of her own.
I always encourage my patients' family, touch and hold them while they are still warm. Don't hold them when they have turned cold. Because I learned that the feeling of touching the person actually can create a skip in my heart, but it creates a sensation in the patient, and the patient will really embrace that even through the most difficult moment.
This enclosed room within the palliative ward is called the peace room. This room allows the patient to spend their last 24 hours with their family and their loved ones. If these walls could speak, it would speak of the gut-wrenching sadness, of declaration of deep affection, of bittersweet goodbyes, and of final reconciliation. And finally, the pain of letting go.
The peace room for me and my family was the room that I shared with my grandma. I still remembered that day like it just happened yesterday. My whole family was there, and so were my relatives. I can still remember when our helper called us into the room. We could all feel that it was time. As I ran to her side and held her warm hand, her oxygen levels started to drop, and it slowly reached 0. And as she took her last breath, her hand slowly became cold. It was the final goodbye.